Episode 3 of Loki has premiered on Disney+. Some questions were answered and other questions were asked. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what did you think about Episode 3 of Loki? As this is a spoiler-filled review, feel free to spoil away down below in the comment section. No need for spoiler warnings. Also, you can look down below. I've got little chapter markers if you want to skip ahead to a specific section to hear my thoughts on something in particular. I'll start off with my spoiler-free general thoughts on the episode, and then I'll kind of walk through everything that takes place. One more thing before we get started, there is a sale going on in my merch store. That's 35% off of everything for the next few days. That means $13 t-shirts. You can get face masks for under $10, and these I Talk Movies Too Much shirts come in multiple designs. If you're interested in getting your own I Talk Movies Too Much t-shirts or one of the other designs in my merch store, the link is down below in the description. The sale goes for the next few days, and let's get started with my general thoughts. In another fun, enjoyable episode where it was nice to get to see our two Lokis banter back and forth, but I would say of the 3 episodes we've gotten up to this point in time, this was easily the weakest of the bunch, at least for me. And I think the reason for that isn't so much that there was some big gigantic problem with the episode itself or something specifically I didn't like, but inherently the nature of the story they told just kind of feels like a side quest in a TV show. And what I mean by that is it kicks off right where the last episode left off with our Lady Loki heading in to try and take out the Timekeepers, but then it kind of goes off on this side quest that just feels like a deviation, a rabbit trail that exists for the purpose of putting our two Lokis together and spending time and figuring out how they interact, strengths, weaknesses, the differences in their plans, all of that fun stuff. In which case, it just inherently feels a little bit inconsequential in a certain sense. Whereas the first two just had these big, gigantic reveals about what's going on, plot twist. This one, it's like, okay, it was fun to see them together, but specifically inherent to what they told us, what happens on this little planet doesn't really matter all that much. It's just something to slow down these two characters so they have to spend time with each other. It's just obstacles for them to get over to reveal the different ways that they think and the different ways each of them tries to overcome things. And so it exists just to expose our Lokis and who they are and how they interact with one another. So it's fun. I enjoyed all of that. But when you only have a 6-episode season, when you have a full episode dedicated to going to this planet that built into it probably doesn't matter very much, it just feels like, oh man, I wish we could have spent this time a little bit somewhere else. Perhaps you could even tie it to the big criticism of The Mandalorian, a show that I love, a show that I thoroughly enjoyed, but it felt like each episode was kind of like a side quest that when you put them all together, you had the full quest, but it was like, go to this place to get this item. And that's essentially what this was. They go to a place to try and get to a thing. And the place itself doesn't really matter. It could be any given place. It's pretty generic in terms of the plot overall. They just happen to be there. So, to be very clear, I had fun with it, but I was hoping we weren't going to kind of do these types of episodes when we only got 6 episodes. Or that they could have found some way that it felt a little bit more tied to a kind of bigger scheme of what was going on. Because as is, it just, I don't know, it had that vibe to it that just, it's like, okay, side quest. Oh, cool, I get it. We have to find some way to get our characters together, but I wish you kind of could have found a better way to get them together, having these conversations and exposing these things about them. So, like I said, I want to be very, very, very clear. I had fun with the episode. I enjoyed it, seeing the two of them banter back and forth. There was plenty of action in the episode, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. But it also didn't move the story forward. Has a couple reveals about what's going on in the grander scheme of thing. But even compared to the previous two, it wasn't nearly as philosophical. It doesn't explore some of the ideas that I found interesting in the first 2 episodes. And I missed my buddy Owen Wilson as well. So good. easily the weakest of the three. Doesn't in any way diminish my enjoyment of the show up to this point in time. As we are halfway through the show at this point in time, trying to evaluate compared to Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision. On current pace, this will be my favorite of the shows, on current pace. But the other two shows, I think, in their second halves where they lost it a little bit, we'll see what happens here. I think there's a lot of potential for this one to stick the landing better. We shall see what happens. Let's start talking about the episode specifics. So the episode kicks off with Lady Loki in a bar drinking margaritas with someone talking about brain freeze. And then you go, wait a minute, isn't that the lady from the last episode? Pretty quickly, Lady Loki tries to use the concept of brain freeze to trick the other lady into revealing all the details about the timekeepers, how they're protected, where they're at, which elevator you need to take, how do you get to them so you can take them out. It seems what she's trying to get to, and the lady she's chatting with is trying to like, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to answer this, and then it's revealed that we're back in the supermarket from the previous episode as the TVA agents were arriving, and she's able to do this enchanting thing where she goes into her mind, tries to pry things out of it, thus revealing, as we learned in the last episode, how the Minuteman lady was saying like, oh no, I said where the timekeepers are. And she's revealed that she said stuff to Lady Loki. So this kind of shows the scene how that happened. Once again, affirming that our Lady Loki is on the hunt for these characters and introducing this new power that she has, and how she can pull information out of them. Cut to where our last episode left off. Lady Loki walks out of a portal and she's in the TVA. She tries to do her enchanting tricks on people. Doesn't work. She realizes magic doesn't work in the TVA, so she starts breaking out into a bunch of fights trying to make her way to the timekeepers. Loki shows up and he has his own thoughts for what she should do. He wants her to team up with her. She wants to do her own thing. So the two of them get into a little bit of a scuffle because they can't seem to agree on anything. And then as they're in the middle of all this, the TVA agents show up and Lady Loki's like, I'm gonna kill Phase 1 Loki if you don't do what I want. They're like, we don't care. Go ahead and kill him. And so then Loki grabs her like time pad and they drop into a portal onto this apocalyptic planet that we spend the rest of the episode on. And very quickly it's clear this is a dangerous place to be. Explosions, meteorites, everything smashing down onto the planet. You can see some moon planet thing is very close to it, about to smash into it. And then they go to use their time pad to get off this dangerous planet and realize the batteries are drained, thus setting up the plot that they have to fill the batteries as quickly as they can to get off this planet. And this is kind of where I talk about this one feels like a side quest because, you know, this show in general is not about recharging batteries. It's not about this planet. This planet is just the apocalypse they happen to be on. They needed to find a place that they could go where they wouldn't disrupt the time stream so the TV agents would show up to catch them and see what they're up to. They need to find that place that's an apocalypse where they can hide and just interact for 45 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it was. So we would see the two of them, have fun with the two of them, notice the differences between the two of them, get Loki Phase 1 to reveal some stuff about our Lady Loki. That's what this episode was for. That's why it existed. And it was fun. Like I said, I didn't have big problems with it. But inherently, when your plot line, when you only have 6 episodes, and one of your plots is like, how do I plug in my iPhone on your show about the time streams, multiverse, timekeepers, Loki variant back from the dead, setting up potentially the rest of Phase 4, let's recharge our iPad. One of these is less interesting than the other. And that's kind of the complaint right there. That's the issue, is that at the core of the episode, you know, we know they're not going to die from this. We know they're going to find some way to get off the planet. And so the quest to recharge the pad, you don't care about it. It's just a setting for them to have antics. That's kind of my issue, I would say, with the episode. I had fun with the individual scenes, the individual banter, all that. But the central plot line, who cares? Because we know they're not going to die. So anyway, they realize that they are stuck there. They've got to get this thing charged. And Loki Phase 1 is hiding it. Lady Loki wants it. She knows how to get to power, so they need each other to find a way to get off this planet where they will die in 12 hours if they don't. And so this kind of leads to a series of conversations between the two of them and scenarios which reveal who they are. So during their conversation, she reveals that she's been doing this for quite a while. Her plan was multiple years in the making to put all the pieces in place to get to that moment. And then he shows up and kind of messes the entire thing up for her. Other thing that's revealed in this little moment is that she likes to go by the name Sylvie, which in comic lore, there's a Sylvie Lushton who was a human given powers from Loki, and she became the Enchantress. So how far they're going with this, is it just a nice wink at the audience for comic fans? I don't know, but clearly of all the names they could pick to give this Loki variant, they go with Sylvie, which does absolutely have comic origins, ties to Loki, but as is the case with the MCU, they've MCU-ified the character to kind of fit her into the mold of what this show needs her to be. Through their conversations, they also talk about their mothers. They try to enchant one another. And you immediately see there's a lot of similarities between them and a lot of big, gigantic differences in how each of them work. After walking for a little bit, they come across a little bit of a house that they want to try and get into. And Lady Loki wants to be a person of force. Loki Phase 1 is like, we should use a little bit more diplomacy. She kicks in the door, immediately gets shot. He tries to use his trickery, transforms into the lady inside's husband, walks up. He also gets shot. Both of them use their trickery in ways that, or their methods, and fail at it miserably. But they end up talking with the person and find out, hey, you got to get to the Ark before the planet blows up. You need a ticket to get on the Ark. And this sets us on our quest to try and get on this Ark, because the Ark will probably have enough power to recharge their iPad, because you can't recharge your iPad just anywhere because it's a Time iPad, and those are super duper power dependent. And so this takes us to the next branch of our little quest. Once again, they're trying to like sneak onto ships, and each of them uses their own skills. Loki Phase 1 disguises himself. She enchants a guy a little bit to let them through. And they get on board this train that should take them to the Ark. And once again, we see all these little moments trying to reveal who each of them are, what makes them tick, and how they're wired in light of their experiences. So in the case of Loki Phase 1, he's only a few days into this TVA on the run adventure. Not long ago, I mean, literally just have to keep thinking, reminding yourself that a week ago, 5 days ago, whatever it was, he was in the first Avengers movie. Just a little bit, not terribly long ago, he was still partying with Thor in Asgard. That's not terribly removed from him. And she's talking about how she's been on the run from the TVA for years working on this plan. And like when they talk about their mother, she's like, she's just a distant memory for me, which implies she's been doing this a very, very, very long time. So much so that all of the history on Asgard, it's just like a fog to her. And then she uses this line. She specifically says the TVA are omniscient fascists. These fascists. They're all-knowing fascists. That's her take on the TVA. Which, if you watch my previous reviews, that's where I assume all of this is going. The TVA aren't good guys. They are bad guys. They are kind of this dictatorship defining the sacred timeline to suit their needs, not to suit the needs of everyone else. And in doing so, they're actually going to end up being the bad guys. It's kind of what I've been thinking from the very beginning, because it's not like they seemed like good guys. And if you're trying to, when you explain how there are all these different multiverse timelines, and then one of them beat the rest into submission, declared itself the sacred timeline, that doesn't sound like the good guys. That sounds like the time conquerors, not the benevolent timekeepers. And so then her response, once again, or her phrasing for them, is that they are these omniscient fascists. Not the nicest way to refer to someone. Anyway, once again, we're trying to reveal who our two Lokis are. So Loki Phase 1, who was just partying not too long ago, free, trying to conquer the Earth just a week ago, he takes up drinking And then he starts to sing and dance with everyone, and he's removed his disguise, thus doing something that draws a lot of attention to him while not in a disguise. And our lady Loki friend, or Sylvie, is not crazy about what he's doing, so she keeps warning him, don't do this. This is a bad idea. He doesn't listen, of course. People show up, fight breaks out, and eventually they get thrown out the window. And so they have to get back to this ark to get to the power source, but now they're not on the train that will take them to the ark. They are in the desert. And so she starts demanding, like, I'm going to kill you if you don't give me the time pad because you're not trustworthy. He pulls it out of his pocket, and it's been smashed to pieces, which is most unfortunate since that was the way they were going to not die. So they start bantering back and forth about what they need to do to not end up dying. And he's like, well, wait a minute. Everyone dies because even the people on the ark, right? Right. So what if we just get on the ark? If we escape, we make it so we just get it out of here first, then we don't die. And TVA agents will open portals, and then we can capture them and escape through the portals that we would get from the tech from them. We've got a new plan to try and get off of this doomed planet. But once again, we pause to have conversations between our two Lokis. And Loki Phase 1 wants to learn, how does she do the mind enchanting thing? He doesn't know that particular trick. Finally, she's like, okay, I'll let you know. Some people, it's easy. You just kind of go into their brain, take hold. Other people, you have to go into their memories to make it happen. She goes, yeah. So like the TVA agent I took earlier, I had to actually kind of go into her memories from before she was a TVA agent. The stuff we saw at the beginning of the episode. Loki Phase 1 is like, hold up. The Timekeepers created them. She doesn't have memories from before she was a TVA agent. She's like, what are you talking about? Dude, what are you talking about? All of them are variants. Big plot twist. Not terribly surprising. Not one, I hadn't specifically predicted that. But the idea that everything that the TVA agents were saying to us was just dictated to them is literally what they told us. The TVA agents literally said that we follow the dictations of the Timekeepers and we dictate them to you. They literally say that in the first 2 episodes. These are not people that are thinking. These are not people with their own thoughts. They are people that have been told what to think and what to do, and they just go along with it, so much so that our good friend Mobius has never been on a jet ski, which I'm sure we will learn at the end of this. He's been on a jet ski many times, but that's been erased from his mind. Maybe he was a water skier, maybe he sold jet skis, he lived on the water, and all that's been taken from him by these omniscient fascists, the Timekeepers. So, like I said, in light of what I said in my previous reviews, not terribly surprising to learn that our TVA agents have been misled and are spreading bad information. That's kind of built into all of this, that there's suspicious stuff taking place, but it has been confirmed, I guess, assuming that we trust Lady Loki, which in this moment I would. They themselves are prisoners of the TVA. They've just been turned, and they don't even know it, setting up all sorts of crazy scenarios for what could unfold in the second half of the season. This all leads into the final bit of the episode where they walk into the city where utter chaos has erupted because obviously the planet is both about to be destroyed and all the people not on the ark want to get on the ark, or if they're not trying to get on the ark, they know they're going to die, so they're just going crazy. And this leads to a pretty fun little big action set piece where our two Lokis are running through the city, battling people as things are exploding, chaos all around them. And some of it's even done with like long takes, and that's just a lot of fun when you have sets this big and this spacey and weird and different, and you can do this just running through it as things explode and fights are taking place. Just a really cool shot, and the sort of thing that normally you can't do on a television budget. That's the joy of kind of these Marvel Disney Plus shows, is that they have the budget to build these sets or do the special effects, whatever it took to actually have these people running around in a space as all this craziness is taking place. That's a lot of fun. I'm actually fascinated to see when they, at the end of each of the seasons, they do kind of those behind the scenes episodes. I want to know what they did for this episode. Like, is this a huge set? Like, how did they do it? I'm interested to know. But anyway, after a bunch of fighting their way through people, They look up and chaos rains down onto the Ark and it explodes. And they realize, uh-oh, we are stuck on a planet that's about to blow up. And we don't have any batteries. And we are in trouble. Credits roll. And even to this point, of kind of, why did this episode not kind of have as many as wow moments for me? A lot of it's simply because even this reveal at the end, it's a big reveal for those characters, but are we expecting they're going to get killed off in 30 seconds and then the rest of the show is about Mobius and the Timekeepers? No. The rest of the show is going to be about these two. So we know they're not actually going to die, so the reveal that they're stuck on the planet and the plan that they had didn't work, it's not like nearly as interesting of a hook as at the end of the first episode where you learn, oh, Loki's hunting Loki. End of the second episode, oh, Loki's hunting Lady Loki. And he chose to follow her and not stay with the TVA. Those make you go, what's about to happen? Into the second episode, Lady Loki time-bombed the whole timeline. Jacked the whole thing up. What's going to happen with that? Those are very interesting for the MCU as a whole. They're very interesting for the show as a whole. I want to know what's going to happen with that. But I know that they're not going to die at the beginning of the next episode. It's not going to start off with the planet exploding and they're dead for good, removed from the timeline. Some way they're going to survive it. So it's just not as good of a hook as compared to the first two episodes. And then the episode in general of like, okay, it's all about charging my phone. It's all about getting to the Ark to steal it. We know none of that's actually what the show's about. Or maybe they'll blow my mind in the next episode. We find out it really is. That's what it really is all about. It's all about making these people survive. Maybe that's what's going to happen. But probably this is just a little side quest. A fun side quest. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoyed getting to meet Lady Loki, see two Lokis butt heads with each other. Some fun action set pieces. Some very cool, big, apocalyptic, world-ending set pieces. But as for the impact on the story as a whole, it's much more just about getting to know our two characters rather than building out the world, developing the plot, moving things forward. So we'll close things out with my predictions and final thoughts. And as I mentioned before, currently on the path to be my favorite of these Marvel Disney Plus shows, but because the first two shows kind of didn't quite stick the landing fully with everything they did in their second halves, that has me a little bit nervous. I think the nature of this show lends itself a little bit better to, however, sticking the landing better. With WandaVision being like, let's do all these different types of TV shows and build intrigue and mystery and what on earth is going on. The mystery was inherently a little bit more intriguing than the payoff could ever be, because all of our theories couldn't be true. You couldn't make all that stuff happen because it would just be fan service. It was just too much. So then the mystery, like I said, was the most fun thing about it. And so the payoff didn't quite live up to it. And then with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think they just had some missteps in how they did the journey overall. With this one, they set up pretty clearly the tension, the conflict, what we're working towards, what the ramifications could be. And then we start to unravel what we thought we knew and replace it with something new. But you can see that we're building towards something with the Timekeepers that will have implications for the timeline. And maybe they will let us down and it's not nearly that interesting and it's way more kind of a softball ending or something like that. But you could see how this really will tie into future things directly. Not just our fan theories, but directly would tie into it nicely. What specific predictions do I have? I imagine Mobius will probably team up with Loki. He'll be the first one to kind of be like, oh, wait, I'm being taken advantage of. Wait a minute. Yeah, I've had feelings like something wasn't quite right around here. And I think he'll kind of join in on their little quest. I think by the end of it, our Lokis will be revealed to be these clearly anti-heroes. They think, at least right now, Loki Phase 1 thinks he's just doing this because he wants power and he's a narcissist. By the end of it, he'll have slightly better motives to it, probably, in realizing that these are actual time fascists that are dictators that are controlling the multiverse, and that's a bad thing. That'll be undone in some sense. That will set up Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm guessing there'll be some tie-ins like that. How directly, I don't know. Because of some comic book ties and some casting we've heard about. I wouldn't be surprised if Kang is tied to our timekeepers in some sort of sense. It plays into that a little bit. But I don't have a ton of like real specifics. I think that's kind of the fun nature to where some of this is going, is that you have a good idea in a certain sense, the ballpark, but the specifics, there's a lot of fun potential, but I don't have a vision in my mind of exactly what it looks like. But somehow it will tie into Reed Richards showing up and Mephisto showing up, of course. That's because it's a Marvel Disney Plus show, so that always has to be the answer. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What did you think about the episode? Where do you think all of this is headed? Do you got any predictions? Spoil away down below in the comment section. Remember, shirts are on sale right now. $13 for a t-shirt. Masks, you can get them for under $10. I got a bunch of different styles. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV way too much.